convenience turning into a catastrophe almost in a blink of an eye.
That's right. And, you know, any sort of mistake is going to be heavily punished. Any sort of mistake can have massive ramifications throughout this dungeon. It'll be having to watch for both of these teams to start building up that confidence, because this series is the one that's going to determine which team moves on to qualify for our global finals and which team will have one last chance in our last stand tournament 2 weeks from now. All right. Signups, of course, closing on Monday, right after this tournament wraps up. So whichever team loses here has to get their signups ready, has to prepare for another slog of time trials and another tournament to be able to qualify for globals for our $300,000 prize pool. So let's get into it. Game number 1 between Echo and Reload Esports starts right now here in theater, or in Necrotic Wake.
So close to
man.
it was so good until that point. All right.
It's a pothole for Jack.
All right, we see Echo and Reload Esports doing an insanely big pull on both sides, actually. Both pulling the boss and also pulling in a lot of the trash mobs here. It looks like neither of the teams actually did pull Incinerator just yet. So they want to finish up the mobs, then they move over to the Goliath, activate it with the Kyrian Covenant, pick up the orbs, then they're going to be pulling Incinerator. You can see Gingy already making his way over there, did tag it just now, and then they want to just use those orbs to make sure that AoE pulsing damage is going to help them to deal with the Incinerator. And it looks like both of the teams did execute that first part of the boss pull and the trash perfectly. So good job on both the teams. They're going to be pulling some more trash on top of the boss in just in a second though.
Yeah, and they notably, like, this should be a pretty high healing check for the tanks on the side of Reload Esports. They need a lot of defensives, and since they're out of their defensives, it should be dangerous. However, whenever your whole entire group is stacked up, just the healing from those Goliath orbs, it's absolutely, like, it is a lot of healing that is going straight into your tank, and so you're able to keep them topped up. Reload Esports had one of those Vanguards alive for just a little bit longer than the side of Echo, and I think that's going to result in just a little bit more damage on Blightbone because of having that mob left alive just a slight bit longer. And now Reload Esports is grabbing some of these Blight bags, while Echo here is positioning to grab these soldiers and all of these the Corpse Collector and Caster mobs off of that little landing area. The Corpse Harvester needs to make sure that it gets interrupted on CD as well as the Incinerator, and Echo makes very quick work of that first pull and that first boss.
Yeah, so Echo definitely managed to somehow gather a lot more single target damage in comparison to Reload Esports. Reload Esports is struggling a bit at the end of this boss fight as they're dropping incredibly low from some of the residual damage that is happening here. Actually, their Shadow Priest and their Rogue going down. They will be able to release and get back because the boss is down, but that is already 10 seconds in comparison to Echo, and Echo's just blasting through this. They're picking up their second Goliath orbs here, and Malik's still struggling to stay alive with the last couple of mobs that you still have left there.
I think their Goliath orbs fell off a little bit earlier than they normally do because they were slightly slower. It's like I was talking about earlier, it's just a cascading effect of things happen, and then your pull goes a little bit slower, then they no longer have the Goliath orbs for that trash pack. But Echo pick up their Goliath orbs from that one mob, from that one Goliath that's off to the side there, and here they have pulled all of their trash into Narzuda. This is a really dangerous pull for Necrotic, or not Necrotic, for Sanguine, as you have that Narzuda mob casting the Necrotic bolt over and over again, but Echo make very quick work of that pack. I think now ended up using one of his silence orbs that you get as well, and that actually allowed Echo to be able to kite all of the mobs around to drop Sanguine in a perfect point, and now they are preparing to get their third set of the Goliath orbs. Where Reload Esports, they're taking a route that only they have been taking, where they're shrouding around that Narzuda trash, and they're not going to be playing any of that. Instead, they're going to be playing just like the Skeletal Monstrosity and some of the other mobs in this area to be able to get their count, as opposed to playing Narzuda.
Yeah, it looks like Echo did send Fragments over to the boss, activating that RP event. So he's going to come back in just a second. Maybe Clix is going to grip him down so he can help the team to kill off that Necromancer. There we go. He is jumping. You can see him in the top right corner. There we go. Click's trying to grab him, didn't
Somebody
just
grab
get,
our friend.
there we go. There we go, he did manage to get back. Now they're activating the orb too, so everyone is picking up that buff as well, and then they're probably gonna gather up a pretty substantial pull in just a moment.
Yeah, and look at this. Reload Esports have already started their massive pull. Angler gets hit by a frontal, but is able to be topped back up. You see him immediately popping his cloak, and now Reload Esports needs to kite all of these mobs away from the Sanguine. That Bone Reaver, they do not want to get that mob stuck in Sanguine because of the insane amount of HP that it has. Just being stuck in that Sanguine would be terrible for Reload Esports, and right on time. They get that pull dealt with almost perfectly, and they're at 65% enemy forces count. Of course, they do have 2 deaths on the board, which is not great for them. And then Echo, ooh, they end up dealing with one of the Necromancers with using their Goliath orbs to deal with that. And oh my goodness, this is something that we haven't seen before. Executioner Varuth gets pulled at 100% HP into a mark. That is something that we never see teams do.
We actually did see that before from Obey Alliance, even though it wasn't a 22 Tyrannical. Obey Alliance was having this really impressive strategy where they used those orbs, because they still have the orbs from the Goliath, right? And it allowed them to pull Varuth into the boss. But Echo did commit a weapon here. You see Varuth died incredibly quickly. That's because now did use, I believe it was a spear or an orb, not sure. One of those 2 weapons were committed by now to make sure this pull works out for them. And this is really good because you don't waste this time single targeting down Varuth. But they're struggling a little bit. Gingy proccing that Cauterize here. He is actually playing Fire Mage on both of the sides, but everyone just dropping so low. Sally has a hard time to recover this pull because everyone dropped so low with that initial 50% healing reduction aura that they had applied to them from Varuth. And now, slowly, Sally is managing to heal everyone back up. But the Ashen is down, the wings are down, so everyone is still just struggling.
Yeah, and Reload Esports, their Holy Paladin does have access to that Ashen Hollow. You saw it come out right as Varuth started to get low and they engaged Amarth. They do also have these corpse mobs on top of Amarth as well, in addition to the other ads that Amarth does summon. They need to make sure that they get the ads killed off first and foremost, and then those other warriors and whatnot, they can kind of die secondarily. It's not that big of a deal. And so now Reload Esports and Echo are both at the exact same enemy forces count, but Echo's strategy for how they were getting that second Goliath, just a little bit difference in their routing, is going to propel them into the lead, especially whenever you have to factor in that there is the 10 seconds of death differential also.
Yeah, definitely. Echo finishing off Amarth quite a bit faster compared to Reload Esports. They're still at 45% on the boss, and they have to worry about even finishing this off because if you guys remember, they actually had some issues with Amarth before, and they wiped this boss multiple times in a row, and it doesn't look too great because the boss is still pretty high HP, and Angler dropping incredibly low. No cheat death available. He does use Cloak of Shadows to be able to survive the damage incoming, but there's just so much damage, and Echo having an easier time because they actually committed a weapon, right? So Reload Esports is going to have an advantage later on because they still have that spear that Echo actually committed to that boss, but it's not going to be worth it if they struggle so much on this boss and they have to commit so much. So hopefully they can finish it off in just a second, but Echo already gathering up that first initial Necropolis pull, and Fragments does go down. They do have a Battle Rest available, but they're not using it. Fragments did actually release, and a lot of Sanguine heals going off on these creations as well.
Yeah, those mobs were just absolutely bathing in that Sanguine. Now you have to be looking at Now's HP. He has 4 stacks of that Mutilate debuff as he's starting to kite frantically around the room, trying to get a reset. Okay, so now he's continuing to leap away. Frag has joined back into the group. All of these Stitchworks are just at 30% HP due to that Sanguine healing. Now did end up getting a reset on that Mutilate debuff, But, okay, so they do still have 2 Corpse Collectors just throwing flesh in the background. This is so scary for Echo. They need to make sure that they're continuing to get kicks on these Corpse Collectors. Both of them are going to be dying here in just a second. It looks like Echo may be able to recover this pack. Oh, one of the casts goes off.
Everyone has a diva, everyone drops incredibly low. Clicks goes down. Actually, now it's just trying to survive. He's just kiting for his life as he does have cheat death available, and this tenderized stacks just kept stacking up. He did manage to reset the tenderized stacks, but he's still just getting mutilated by all of these creations and the Stitchworks that are still alive. Now he finally did manage to recover a little, and they did manage to finish off one of the Stitchworks. So it should be able to have recovered at this point. No more panic, but now they also have 2 deaths on the board. So that means they're going to be completely even with time compared to Reload Esports. And Reload Esports, they didn't have that many issues on that pull. You can see they're only at the Stitchwork left, and then they're going to be even in the whole dungeon. This is so close between those 2 teams.
Yeah, Reload Esports had a medium amount of Sanguine healing while Echo had a lot of Sanguine healing, I think it was the biggest differential between these two teams. And so Reload Esports able to get down those Stitch works and put themselves even in count with Echo here. Now they are both making their way into that first little area of the Trash Gauntlet where you have this double assistant spawning. And now it's just going to be kind of a damage race. I think that all things considered, whenever Echo had those problems there with that pull, that kind of evened up everything. So now I think that both of these teams are back at square one and at the exact same point as one another.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You gotta be really careful that there's no Sanguine heal going off on these assistants. It looks like Echo did execute this properly, but Marky is going down for Reload Esports, as it looked like he got a fixate, and maybe there was some miscommunication with Bob from the Paladin. Maybe he was supposed to get bopped and it didn't go off or was on cooldown, or Dispersion was pressed too late. Either way, they did not manage to get rid of this fixate. Shadow Melt also was not available for Marky, so he couldn't get the fixate off of him. So definitely another time loss for Reload, as Echo is already fighting that next trash pack.
Yeah, being able to go a little bit faster. Gore Grind is dropping really low. This is the sub-rogue kind of pull, where you have all of these Gore Grind bits. They don't give count, so they're basically just mobs that you don't really worry about. They do drop Sanguine, though, so you don't want to kill them before you end up killing Gore Grind. Oh, no, and Gore Grind was standing inside of a Sanguine puddle there from one of those bits, and this is just a pull for frag. He's literally sitting there, making sure he's spamming Shuriken Storm and Eviscerate, trying to DPS Gore Grind as much as possible. They are also utilizing that Flesh Crafter to its fullest potential to be able to lob those cleavers into those big mobs. And that's an absolutely great tactic in this area. But the downside is if it hits either the bits or the leftovers or whatever those like smaller mobs are, then they can have a problem where the small mobs die a little bit early, and then you have either Goregrind or Rotspew like standing inside of Sanguine. And Reload Esports, they do not have that problem. They have no Sanguine healing, so they're trying to catch back up a little bit. Only 50% of the HP between Rotspew separates these two teams as it currently stands.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind that even though Reload Esports is behind in the dungeon at this point, I do believe they do have an additional spear available to them, and Echo does not, because they did use it on Amarth and Baruth. So if Reload Esports does still have that spear, I think it is on Marky, then they can maybe catch up on the boss DPS because of it. We'll see how that goes, as Echo is now finishing off that last pack and the last Flash Crafter, as they're going to be waiting for that boss to spawn in just a second. Flashcrafter is just getting sheeped in the back, making sure that the cleaver goes off as soon as the boss comes down.
Yeah, but Echo already engaging Surge and Stitch Flesh. That creation is coming out. This fight, we've seen a lot of issues with just the hook and how you're dealing with the Fleshcrafter on this fight. This Fleshcrafter is really annoying and can get in your way. In addition to that, with how much damage you need to commit into Stitch Flesh, we've seen teams get up to sometimes 3 creations at once, and once you have multiple creations out, sometimes they'll do this thing where they accidentally hook one another, and that absolutely cannot happen for Echo. And you do see Surge and Stitch Flesh, all of the cooldowns are being popped into it. You do even have that Ashen Hollow being thrown out as well. Surge and Stitch Flesh will probably go back upstairs into another phase here in a second. They need to make sure that this creation gets the hook, pulls Stitch Flesh off of that platform, and then they kill off him before the second or the third creation spawns. You can kind of deal with 2 creations at once for a little bit, but it is very dangerous. So they're on a timer here.
Yeah, and it looked like Reload Esports did commit that Ashen earlier in a trash pack, so that it won't have it for this boss. They will have it for the last boss, but maybe that is too little too late, as Echo is already getting incredibly low on Stitch Flesh. They need to get that boss below, I believe, 5% though, before he jumps up, because below 5% he won't jump anymore. Looks like they actually committed a weapon there at the very end, maybe a hammer it looked like, because the boss dropped really low all of a sudden. So maybe they were just making sure that the boss doesn't jump up again, committing that hammer. But now they're already on their way to the last boss. They still have that Flash Crafter that is going to snap up in just a second, helping them to DPS the boss. They do have Bloodlust, no Ashen though, and I'm not sure if they still have a lot of weapons left. There might be 1 or 2 hammers, but probably no more spears available for Echo. Reload Esports are doing a good job as well to finish off Surge and Stitch Flesh, but they're pretty behind at this point. The only way to actually win it for Reload Esports is to finish off this boss quick, and then if they have any weapons left, then they have to throw them at the boss really fast to make up all of that damage, all of the time that they're behind at this point.
And they have to overkill this boss by 5 seconds as well. It's not just kill it before Echo, it's kill it 5 seconds before Echo. In addition to that, both of these teams have to get that Flesh Crafter killed off as well. Echo's Flesh Crafter is starting to dip pretty low, which Genji can heal it up with Polymorph. It's just not something that you really want to be spending globals on. But with that Flesh Crafter, somewhere below 20% HP, it may have to happen because they need those throw cleavers to do a significant portion of this boss's damage on a 22 Tyrannical.
And Genji has been exiled for a long time. I'm not sure if he didn't suicide, so he's trying to kill that Et, but he's just now came back up. They have been holding on to this Bloodlust for a long time. They have to commit that last at some point, as the Fleshcraft is just dropping lower and lower. Genji could cheap it if they choose to do so. Bloodlust being popped now, Combustion coming back up for Genji as well. Reload Esports popped that Bloodlust, but Ankler had to go down, being exiled, so he's not getting the benefit of that Bloodlust for him. You can see Reload Esports did catch up on the boss DPS quite a lot though. You can see they're now lower than Echo, but keep in mind they're 5 seconds behind.
Yeah, I think it's just that difference of that Ashen Hollow. They're not cooldowning for Ankler. That Bloodlust is not for him. It is for that Holy Paladin. Ooh, and now Echo, with just better use of that Fleshcrafter, are continuing to get more damage into Nalthor, and they're starting to even pass Reload Esports by a significant amount there. Their Bloodlust more optimized for the group's damage as opposed to just the individual Holy Paladin damage, and it looks like Echo Esports Echo is going to be able to take this first map against Reload Esports.
Yeah, the boss is going low and lower. They still have to finish off that Fleshcrafter, but yeah, they all of a sudden got so far ahead with that boss DPS, throwing that Bloodlust running there. Finishing off the Fleshcrafter in just a second, and there it is. Echo with a 15-minute 44 clear of Necrotic Wake, winning that first dungeon against Reload Esports.
That's right, and unfortunately, the cleanest of the pulls for Reload Esports is not the one that they won. So Echo taking that victory, going up 1 here in our lower finals to start off our series. And, you know, this is where the momentum really starts building as well, Zyro, for the Echo team, trying to make sure they're getting back on pace.
Yeah, but so, funnily enough, if I'm Echo, I'm still not happy with that run. Like,
yeah,
these random spot deaths that they keep having all over the place is so abnormal for them. Like, we're used to Echo being a team that consistently goes through with literally either 0 or like 1 death. Anything more than that is so out of the ordinary for them. So I'm sure they're still not super happy with the quality of that run, but still happy to get the win. Whereas over on the side of Reload Esports, that's just got to be a frustrating run for you, right? That one pull where you make a mistake at the beginning of the dungeon, and it just puts you behind for the rest of the dungeon. They still played Echo so close, but it just was. I mean, if they didn't have those deaths, they actually could have won this dungeon against Echo.
Dude, you could even see Genji in the player cam, like, after they won the match, you could see him, like, take a sigh of relief, and then he goes and looks over at his other monitor, and you can kind of tell that he probably has the matchup on the other monitor, and he realized how close Reload was, and he's, like, looking really close and intently at it. He's like, oh my goodness, they were right on our heels. And he knows that, like, they had 2 deaths. They almost got punished for having those 2 deaths. It's just that Reload Esports had a really slow first boss.
That's right. And let's zoom in on some of those pulls as well, Zyro. Walk us through just how Echo was able to maintain that advantage.
Well, the main reason the first boss was so slow and so sloppy for Reload Esports was they had a Vanguard just meat shielding in the Sanguine, and then it got Dragon's Breathed in the Sanguine, healed to 2/3 HP-ish, and yeah, they just had to cleave that down with the orbs, and that slight advantage that was given to Echo, plus those 2 deaths on the trash pack after the boss was even dead for Reload, just opened up the entire map for Echo. And I don't want to say they completely took advantage of it. Their Necropolis pull was okay. You know, they had a 1 or 2 spot deaths. Fortunately, it was on the Rogue and the Shadow Priest, not the Mage. Otherwise, it would have been a really tough time for now. But again, yes, sigh of relief for Echo, but you're not done yet. You're not out of the woods yet. You still got to win 1 more match before you can, like, really feel that weight lift off your shoulders, and then you're just kind of playing for a little extra prize money in the finals.
Yep, and some better seeding as well, as we got to still look at who each of these teams would end up being able to play as well. So Echo, with that victory, does put us into Spires of Ascension, which is also another dungeon, Nagura, that Echo's done really well on.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a hard one for Reload Esports to win against Echo in this dungeon if Echo does play this well. They did have a clean run yesterday where they had a 15 minutes 51 clear, which was the fastest time overall by quite a bit even. And they had some pulls that no other team dared to even try, especially before Orifrian, where they committed some of the spears. They just pulled a bunch of Helions and Goliaths and Menders together, and it definitely is really quick, and I'm not sure if Real Esports can compete with that time, but Echo has shown today specifically that they can, they are human and they make mistakes, and if that is going to happen, then Real Esports is right behind on their heels, and they can capitalize off of that really easily.
That's right, and we've been saying it time and time again. Reload Esports has been doing a great job of playing Echo so closely. It almost makes you feel bad as well, Titles, that there's only one weekend for each group, so you're not going to be able to see multiple iterations of Reload Esports or Echo improving and seeing how this matchup further develops.
But there's the second chance tournament that they
True,
they
but one of
go and
those
win.
players is not going to, or one of those teams is not going to be there because they're going to be in the global finals and they'll be able to relax and enjoy.
But then you just win the second chance tournament, and then you can further iterate on your matchup, of course.
Oh, of course.
Makes sense.
That's always going to be a fun thing. Now that you mention it, if you guys did not know, our signups for our second chance last tournament's Wipes Removed, also known as the Great Push minus the Push, is going to be taking place not this weekend, but the weekend following. So we have until Monday to be able to sign up, and it's going to be, like we said before, similar to the Great Push, except we're not going up and down keystone levels. So you're just going to have a static keystone level, and you'll be running through all of those dungeons as fast as you possibly can. And then, of course, it's going to be all about speed, all right, on this one. So none of the second seeds have qualified for our global, so all the second seeds would love to be able to see them, Nagura, taking part in this tournament.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting that none of the second seeds have made it through those group stages. So we might see a lot of them in that last stand tournament, which is daunting to think about if you're not one of those second seeds. If you're in a lower seed than a second seed, or even a completely new team that hasn't competed in a group stage at all. But I definitely think you should try and compete and sign up for it, because it is going to be a completely different format that we have never seen for the MDI speedrunning style. And I do think it's going to be very entertaining for us to watch. Not sure how entertaining it's going to be and how much stress the teams are going to be in to compete, though.
Well, I think that's the nice thing, is that there's the freedom with the tournament in this sort of format, that it's all about your own game plan, and every team can kind of approach it just a little bit differently as to what they want to prioritize first. And you also have your game going on independently of everybody else's, so you're able to say, hey, okay, we have this 5-hour period, we can start mapping out where we want to go, what we're comfortable with doing, and everything along those lines there, Tettles. And I think it makes it a lot easier for these teams to know what to expect time and time again, because you're not worried about, oh, well, if we win or lose, in our upper bracket or lower bracket, our time might be wasted, or our time might be, very beneficial here. It's just, this is our game plan. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to having a really good blueprint for your baseline dungeons, and then being able to adapt very quickly once you understand what your pain points are. I think it also kind of helps that it's you get 15 hours, but a lot of these, some of these dungeons are done in 12 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So you're able to just absolutely slam dunk them, and I think that it's going to be weird to see the meta strategy for some of these dungeons. Are you going to start with what is deemed to be the easiest dungeon, or are you going to start with the dungeon where you're the amount of time lost is going to be the lowest? Are you going to start with something that's short, like a Halls of Atonement or a Mist of Tyranid Scythe, or are you going to start with something that's a little bit longer, where you can probably optimize further and save more time, like a DOS? You could probably save something in the 45-second range in a DOS, where it's really hard to save 45 seconds in a Mists.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. And it's also going to be looking at how well these teams are going to be, dealing with some of the affix and keystone levels, because we don't really know. Because the difference, for example, Zyro, between going through 19 speedrunning and 22 speedrunning across the board, we just are going to have vastly different strategies for these different teams.
Yeah, I mean, the things Titles just mentioned could be completely out the window if things like Mists and Halls of Atonement are like 22 fortified with nasty affixes and the DOS is like a 19.
Yeah.
I mean, what he said is definitely like the case for most things, but we could just throw a wrench in those plans for fun because why not? I mean, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting format for pretty much a bunch of similar reasons, similar to the Great Push.
That's right.
It's just going to be super exciting, and it's just so wild to me that out of all of the great teams that haven't qualified for the Global Finals just yet, we only have room for one of them. I mean, there are going to be a lot of really good teams that are just not going to be in the Global Finals because the competition is so jam-packed this year.
There can be only one, and same holds true for this matchup, as only one between Echo and Reload Esports will move on and qualify right here for our Group C Tournament Cup. So let's see which one of them it might be, as Reload Esports really needs this one to stay alive in the series as Spires of Ascension gets underway.
All right, let's see if Echo can execute their strategy perfectly without any of those mistakes that we've seen them do earlier. Because if that is the case, then I do think it's going to be difficult for Reload Esports to compete with that time. But we've said that before, and then they did compete with the time of Echo. So definitely a possibility.
Dude, yeah, it's one of those things that whenever Reload Esports, whenever you least expect them to show up, they show up and they always overperform expectations. And I think that that's something that you have to be looking out for. But Echo had a 15:51 run in Spires of Ascension earlier this weekend, and that is mad fast. And I don't know how Reload Esports will be able to compete, but it's something that we're going to have to be watching out for, as both of these teams starting off, they're doing the exact same pull here. They're pulling all of the trash, they're line of sighting it to get it all grouped up, and then they drop a silent sigil to make sure that everything is more stacked and interrupted.
Yeah, so Ankler in the get-go already proccing that cheat death, and the lay on hands being committed by their healer as well to make sure he stays alive. A little bit of a difference in comp, as Echo is running that Hunter, while Reload Esports is choosing to run the Frost Mage. Now, I do think Frost Mage overall will have more throughput, but Hunter's a bit safer because you do have that Soothe, that Enrage Dispel, and of course we have Raging here. And we did see them use that quite a lot with the pulls that they're doing, especially for that triple Angel pull at the very end. Having that Enrage Dispel is really important because there's just going to come out so much damage out of that ticking debuff that you have on everybody once that Angel goes into Raging.
Yeah, and the Rogues also have a Soothe, but the Hunter Soothe is a lot faster, more often than not, it feels like, to get applied than the Shiv from the Rogues. I think the biggest difference is the lack of a second Kyrian for Reload Esports and the presence of the second Kyrian for Echo. Since you can only carry one of those Kyrian spears at a time, you would have to have two Kyrians if you want to be spearing that second half of the dungeon, and spearing that Hellion pull is normally pretty good because you're able to pull it with Executioner Brute. That pack is very dangerous, and for Reload Esports, are they going to do a safer pull in that Orifrian area? Are they going to be going a little bit slower there? Or are they maybe not going to spear? Are they only going to play two of the Angels at once? There's a lot of things that go into just the differences in having two Kyrians versus not. But Reload Esports here has started to take a kind of an early lead on this first boss.
This is very interesting. It looks to me as if Echo was actually just waiting for the cooldowns to come back up. All right, so I thought they had changed the way they play this dungeon a little bit. They changed up their strategy, but just because they were holding on to that Bloodlust and the Ashen. But they must have been waiting for some other cooldowns to come back up, and now they committed the Bloodlust and the Ashen as well. You can see they now caught up to Reload Esports because they did push, they did pull the boss earlier, but Echo now catching up because they had all of their cooldowns completely for the boss. While Reload Esports did pull the trash into the boss, seemingly making up some time, but because a lot of the damage went into the ads to make sure that the pull is secure and you're going to be fine. So Echo actually having a little bit more boss damage here as the boss goes down now.
But this is just a matter of 5 seconds at this point as Reload Esports is going to be killing off the first boss. Echo here, let's see. Are they grabbing the other side as well with the Ether Divers? Yeah, Gingy there in that turtle. You saw him grabbing those Ether Divers and those skirmishers as the remainder of Echo here, sitting on this corner, making sure all of the mobs get grouped up in line of sighting. Where Reload Esports kind of taking a break, waiting for
They're
their...
the same.
Ooh, yeah, they're doing the exact same thing. It looks like Simpkins, I think, for their side. Oh, no, that's not Simpkins. Who is off?
It was Marky. Marky
Oh, it's
took
Marky.
them.
Okay.
With Bugger.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
it looks like they're gathering everything up. You can see the mobs are slowly coming in from the back. That's why they're all going line of sight, making sure that all of the mobs just walk all the way in there and not standing still to start casting abilities. Echo doing a really good job getting everyone low, but now everything is in raging range and they have to kite. And Marky goes down for Reload Esports as Simpkins also is proccing that pod, that Dreamweaver pod, as did now manage to get back out, but Marky had to release, and Simpkins just dropping low again as some of those explosives just go off. There's so many mobs in there, so many explosives going off, and you can see Echo did this pull a lot cleaner, it's already done, and they're moving on to the second platform.
It's just that skirmisher too. It's the skirmisher and the explosive where the mobs just weren't all the way grouped up on their line of sight point, where Echo was able to get all of their mobs grouped up, and because of that they were able to get onto the second platform just a lot faster. Now here's an issue that we've seen from a lot of teams where these Praetors will dash out and then no longer be stacked in a great way. Echo does have tools such as Binding Shot and other abilities to be able to make sure that these Praetors are able to get stacked, but you really want them grouped up on top of these Forsworn Goliaths. Now is even in melee range, face tanking just every single thing. And these Goliaths are being pushed into the enraging, and now our Naughty Boy is going to be probably running away from them as he doesn't want to be face tanking them for too long. Actually, they just immediately get sued, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, Malik dropping incredibly low as they're trying to attempt to do the same pull, and even their healer dropping really low because he's got aggro from some of those Ether divers. They are trying to recover here as Malik just procs that cheat death, but they're doing a very good job at keeping everything stacked up as well. Actually, just as I say that, both of the Praetors did dash away, so Malik is trying to group up everything, but he's having a hard time because these Goliaths are just casting that recharge anima, and they're not movable while that is happening. And that Praetor there on the left side is enraged, and is just throwing huge amounts of damage onto Malik as he goes down. All of those Dark Seekers just doing so much damage to a tank. They might be able to kite this out because there's only this Goliath alive, but just a pretty big time loss because they didn't manage to get everything gathered.
Yeah, I mean, now the Goliath's in that recharge anima phase, but Echo is almost one full pull ahead. They didn't even have to commit that Kyrian Spear to this pull that we've seen so many teams have problems to, or just at least drop their Kyrian Spear on. We've seen just an assorted amount of CDs used on it. Echo just able to brute force it just with their raw damage. They don't even have to commit things such as Ashen Hollow or Bloodlust. So this is going really well for the team of Echo. 0 deaths. They're making their way onto Ventinax around the 6-minute mark. Gingy loosening up his muscles, getting just getting a little bit loose. It's good to see that he's feeling a little bit better about this run. And I'm interested to see if they're going to skip past this squad leader or if they're going to play some of this trash. And it looks like they're immediately going to pop Shroud and walk all the way into Ventinax. At that 67% enemy forces count mark, just a couple of Hellion pulls and like the Executioner, those kind of mobs over there should be plenty for them. Where Reload Esports, it's like we were talking about. Look, they're using their Kyrian Spear here. Echo didn't even need it for this pull. They also dropped their Ashen Hollow, so their pack is going to die really fast, but that feels like overkill.
Yeah, this is where that second Kyrian comes into play, as you talked about earlier. Because Reload Esports does not have 2 Kyrians, they cannot pick up that other spear, so they have to commit it at some point, and this is the pull they chose to commit it to. But Echo, because they have 2 Kyrians, they didn't have to commit that spear, and it's going to save them so much time later, because after Ventinax and before Orifrion, there's going to be a crazy pull that they've already executed yesterday that Reload Esports is not going to be able to do, because they have to hold on to their last spear to be able to execute the triple angel pull later. So Echo not having to use that spear, they have 2 spears left, meaning they can do 2 crazy pulls. The triple angel pull at the very end and the Helion plus Goliath plus Mender pack that we're going to see in just a second, basically making up almost all of that trash they still have left to do.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, too, Echo, they burn their Ashen Hollow on Ventinax, which it seems like it's really good. It saves them a lot of boss damage. Reload Esports is not... they're not having that Ashen Hollow for this boss. So this boss is going to take them a substantial amount of more time to be able to deal with just on the side of Echo. Although, I think that Frost Mage is probably better than that Marksmanship Hunter for the boss. However, Simpkin's not exactly high on the damage meter as it currently stands, so maybe I could just be making things up.
Probably just not having cooldowns ready for this one, as they're also gonna do a pretty... At least I assume they're going to do a substantial pull after this, so maybe they're saving some of their offensives. But you can see Echo, they're going to be skipping past their Ruth. They don't want to deal with that one. They're going to deal with that 50% healing reduction around the last boss. But after this, they're just going to be waiting and gathering up this insane pull where they're going to commit their spear for. So just keep an eye on Echo. They're going to be gathering up in just a second. Gingy, though, going down, unfortunately.
What did he die?
As he didn't manage... probably had aggro from some... Or maybe the Goliath cast, he was too close. Either way, no one else is in combat, so they can get him back up at this point. So nothing should be lost. But this pull is what we have to keep an eye on, because this is really difficult to execute. If they make a single mistake here, and one of the mobs is not in the spear, it's going to go bad really quickly.
Yeah, and look at this. Sack immediately coming out on now. He immediately pops his meta because he knows that grouping this pack is the most dangerous part. And right on time, that Kyrian Spear gets launched. You really want to use it early because you don't want the Hellions to be doing their jump completely out of that Kyrian Spear. So they do a great job of getting them killed off, or getting them stacked fast and getting that arrow deployed. Now there's just one Hellion left at 30% HP, and Echo made insanely quick work of that trash pull.
Wow, I mean, that's just so much percentage they got from this one single pull because they have that extra spear. 15% trash in one pull. Reload Esports, though, let's see what they can do. They don't have the luxury of being able to commit a spear for this pull unless they decide to do the triple angel pull without a spear, which would be crazy. So we're gonna see what they have to do, because they're actually skipping the Ruth as well, which is very risky. We've seen only Echo so far skip the Ruth. Reload Esports now also attempting to do that, and it might actually look like they're attempting to do the same pull that Echo just did, possibly without a spear. That would be crazy, though. Let's see what they do as they're gathering everything up.
Yeah, or the question is, are they going to not spear the triple angel? Because this pull, oh my goodness, this is so dangerous. Okay, so they do elect to spear this, which means that they won't have it for that angel pack. But Reload Esports needs to make sure that they are killing off all of this trash. We saw it, whenever it came out of that spear for Echo, they ended up dropping their leg sweep almost immediately. Then they dropped their silent sigil to make sure that their tank wasn't wasn't taking too much damage. And Reload Esports has almost an identical pull. They did commit Ashen Hollow to that, which Echo didn't have to. You see, Zalius still has that available for him. So there's just going to be a little bit discrepancy in terms of how much damage is going out. But now Reload Esports has pulled a Rifrion right on the heels of Echo.
Now I'm actually really curious on how they're going to do the angel pull without spear and without Ashen. That is going to be a really difficult task for Reload, as Echo has both of those cooldowns available. They have the Ashen, the Bloodlust is back up in 50 seconds, and they have the spear. Fragments, though, dropping incredibly low, and clicks going down for Echo. They do have a battle rest that they're going to be using in just a second. You can see Zalia is resting, but the hurls from those usurpers are just getting everyone so low because they were all in raging range and just throwing spears at everyone. But they did now manage to finish off the usurpers, and just another 5 seconds on the board. So they're now even in time differentials here with the death penalties, but of course Echo being just ahead in the dungeon, as they're almost done with the boss, and Reload Esports just engaged just a couple of seconds ago.
I have a fefeeling this is probably a 2-angel angle for Reload Esports without Ashen Hollow or the spear. I think that almost has to be. They would be wild to do it that way. Ooh, Reload Esports is getting these usurpers grouped. Simkins immediately blocks them to make sure that they are coming all the way in. And then they use a Sigil of Misery to try to keep them as grouped up as possible. They don't want to be DPSing them too early. They want a Rifrion to be in the phase before they start hitting these usurpers. So that's they're playing a little bit patient with these mobs, but I think it's a good level of patience from Reload Esports. But all eyes are on Echo here as they are making their way towards one of the most dangerous pulls in this dungeon, this triple angel pull that we know that they are saving their Ashen Hollow for. We know they are saving their additional Kyrian Spear for, and ultimately it's just going to come down to execution. This is a pull that if you lose one player, you can have absolutely massive mistakes, and Bloodlust is even committed to something like this for Echo.
Yeah, this is an absolute crazy pull. You can see all of those debuffs stacking up. You have a damage increase debuff stacking up on everybody. You have a dot that does increasing damage stacking up on everyone. And then you also have the spears being thrown around that pulses out these swirlies that need to be dodged, otherwise you get one shot. So lots of damage coming onto the group, and now every single angel is in raging rage at the same time. They need to die within 5 seconds of each other, otherwise they're gonna heal to full HP, and that almost certainly means that you're going to wipe. So let's see if they can finish them off at the same time. They do have a touch of death available from clicks, so you can even, but one of them goes down. There we go. Alright, so they did manage to kill them all at the same time. Really well executed by Echo. Now Reload Esports, they don't have the Spear, they don't have the Ashen, but at this point they have to commit to the triple angel, because otherwise there's no way of them even winning against Echo since they already pulled the last boss. So I feel like they have to commit, but I'm not sure if it's going to be possible without those offensive cooldowns that Echo had available for them.
Yeah, and on the side of Echo here, their most dangerous part of this boss is just dealing with those 3 tormented debuffs. They have the Saga on increased physical damage taken, so if you get hit with that run through, very dangerous. 50% healing reduction from Baruth, also incredibly dangerous just because of those circles that are coming out. And just the slow from Oral's Coldheart, that can cause you issues of not being able to get into the circle if you're not fast enough. So Echo needs to make sure that they're dodging all of these things and getting dispels as quickly as possible on all of this stuff. And Reload Esports, like you were talking about, do they only have 2 angels? Oh no, they actually do have all 3 angels. This is an insane pull if they're able to pull it off without using all of the CDs that Echo did.
Yeah, this actually is crazy, and how they're even attempting this. I mean, I guess they have to do this considering that Echo is so far ahead. But if they can pull this off, it's still crazy, but it's still going to be too little too late, because Echo is already on that last boss. At this point, they need to hope for Echo to make a mistake. They have that one battle rest available in case someone goes down for Echo. They also have all of those 3 Tormentor debuffs. Unfortunately, their Holy Paladin does go down, and they do have a battle rest to get him back up. But at this point, it's going to be hard to finish all of them off. Again, they need to kill them within 5 seconds of each other, otherwise they're going to heal to full. And you can see some of those angels are raging. It looks like they're doing a decent job. There we go. They actually did manage to execute it. That was really impressive by Reload Esports, even though they did lose those 2 players. But again, unfortunately, it's just too little too late, as Echo is fighting Devos. And if they don't have a wipe, then it's just going to be Echo winning this game. But let's see if they can finish off the boss, as they're going to push into that second intermission in just a second.
That's an unfortunate slow bleed for them. They did something that was really cool. They used a bubble on the Holy Paladin. They bopped the Windwalker Monk, and then they used Cloak plus Ice Block to reset all of their stacks from those angels. And so Reload Esports was just committing to being able to get the stacks off of themselves instead of having to commit a bunch of offensive CDs. So that was a really smart tactic, but they kind of have to watch as it all falls further and further away, as Echo has entered the second intermission here. Now is going to throw this javelin at the boss. Devos has hit 16% HP, and they could probably afford a couple of deaths here and still be able to burn down Devos, as this boss is now basically as good as done.
Yeah, Echo just working on the last couple of percent. Of course, they already have the trash, so they're going to be done as soon as Devils goes down here. And what a run by Echo. Not as quick as their last one, but still fast enough to beat Reload Esports. Echo is going to be the team that makes it into the grand final of today, and also making it into that global final too.
That's right. Echo coming back, getting the momentum flowing, and everything that they need to take that victory over Reload Esports. And, you know, credit to Reload, of course, for playing it close. But, man, Echo, especially when